This is Amadi Coulibaly, one of the gunmen in the terrorist attacks in Paris. In this video, which surfaced 4 days after the attacks, he's pledging allegiance to the leader of ISIS. Days before this video was recorded, another assailant, Sheriff Kouachi, claimed allegiance to a different jihadist group, Al-Qaeda in Yemen.
Al-Qaeda du Yemen.
We don't know how closely the gunmen actually coordinated with the two terrorist organizations, but this episode shows how the face of radicalism has changed since 9/11. Al-Qaeda is no longer the key player when it comes to Islamist terrorism against the West. Instead, multiple jihadi groups cooperate and at times compete with one another. Al-Qaeda is one of the longest operating jihadist militant organizations, having plotted against the West since the early 1990s. But in the past decade, its core leadership has been decimated by drone and special ops in Pakistan, Afghanistan and Yemen. It lost its spiritual leader, Osama bin Laden, almost 5 years ago. Into the vacuum has stepped a tangled web of jihadi groups, with similar ambitions, but fiercer tactics. Al-Qaeda is now led by Egyptian-born Ayman al-Zawahiri, bin Laden's former personal physician and ideological heir. But the recent creation and ascent of ISIS created chaos in Al-Qaeda's inner order. ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi rose in the ranks of another Al-Qaeda offshoot, Al-Qaeda in Iraq.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The native Iraqi has a PhD in Islamic studies and is a young, proven leader. But he only became a militant after the Iraq invasion, a generation apart from the older order of Al-Qaeda leaders. Al-Qaeda and its Iraqi branch coexisted until 2013, when one voice recording changed everything.
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim.
In 2013, Baghdadi, once leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, published a recording online announcing the official creation of ISIS. His intention was to extend his power from Iraq into Syria. But Zawahiri, bin Laden's successor and leader of core Al-Qaeda, had not authorized Baghdadi's move into Syria. He wanted Baghdadi to keep his power within Iraq's borders. But Baghdadi refused, and with that, Al-Qaeda dissociated itself from ISIS. It was the first time Al-Qaeda had formally repudiated an affiliate. However, the two groups are divided by more than just a leadership squabble. While Al-Qaeda and ISIS are tied by a similar extremist ideology, inspired by a violent interpretation of Islam, they disagree on tactics and objectives. While both groups share Osama bin Laden's original goal of re-establishing the caliphate, they disagree on how to bring it about. Other Al-Qaeda affiliates, like Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, have not recognized ISIS as legitimate. These groups' leadership, based in Yemen and in desert regions of southern Algeria, are also part of the network that trained under Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan. To make things even more complicated, another organization has inserted itself into the fray beyond the Arab world, Boko Haram, an Islamist group founded in Nigeria in 2002. The group has so far limited itself to Nigeria's territory, where it has kidnapped scores of young people in order to further its goal of eliminating Western education. There's some evidence that Boko Haram has received training and support from Al-Qaeda's Northwest Africa affiliate. But recently, Boko Haram has increasingly aligned itself with ISIS, drawn by its successes. In fact, a month after ISIS declared its caliphate, Boko Haram also began taking land in northern Nigeria. Now, it controls an area about the size of West Virginia. And after ISIS's highly produced videos began appearing online, Boko Haram started copying their style. They adapted the flag used by ISIS, began to mirror ISIS's language and statements, and even used the same Islamic verses as background audio. It's premature to speak of a formal link between ISIS and Boko Haram, but the big question is whether the African group is simply imitating ISIS, or if there is actually formal communication between the two groups. No matter the connections or otherwise between these groups, recent history suggests the biggest risk to the West is from so-called lone wolves, radical sympathizers like Ahmadi Coulibaly, who are not necessarily aware or don't care about leadership squabbles at the top. They just share their goal of destabilizing the West.